Wow, here we are. Here we are together, Saturday, the 28th of February, the final day. Our 10-minute timer has started. I got a new book. And I know what you're thinking. If you've been watching, you're saying, no. We know about your new book. Came out at the beginning of the year. It's called Excellent Man, but that's not the book I'm talking about. I got another new book. It's called Mork Twain. Now, I promise you, I'm not that prolific. I won't have another book every few months, but this came totally as a fluke, and I'm going to tell you about it. I am so excited and proud of this book, and to celebrate it, we are going to be looking at board games for several of the shows that are mentioned in the book. So let me tell you the quick backstory is that and I'll tell you how I came up with the name Mork Twain, which is kind of funny, but I decided to take Mark Twain's stories and then retell them in the style of sitcoms from the 80s. And this could be any sitcom that aired in the 80s. So there's like a Perfect Strangers chapter, and they all tell different stories. I'll tell you a little bit about some of them. So the way that this was super easy to do was Mark Twain's the greatest writer, that ever lived, the greatest American writer, at least. And so I would take a sitcom like Mork and Mindy, and Mark Twain did all this wordplay, and it's so well fit into, this story where Mork doesn't understand anything. So this is the Mork and Mindy board game from Parker Brothers. And let me show you the game board. And they have my second favorite way of getting instructions is right on here. I like that because you can't lose that either. I like inside of the box lid the best, but this is number 2. There's a lot of stuff in here. There's like this, and there's cards, and like, look at that. The dice you can roll. Lots of things. And the thing that's in here that I always think is fun is when whoever punched this out in the 70s, they then put this in the box because they were like, I got to go throw this away, but trash cans all the way in the other room. So I like that it's just cool to see. It's the kind of thing that, unless you got one. And so this says here, mint unpunched $5. So I'm now thinking perhaps I punched it. Or I noticed there's also a price of $7. So it might be that the guy before me bought it for mint unpunched for $5, then resold it to me for $7. All right. The first story the last story in Mork Twain is about Mork, and the first story in Mork Twain is called A Fonz in King Arthur's Court. And it tells the story of Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, where he goes back in time. There's a whole thing with an eclipse. But having Fonz. Hey, how are you? I see Guy. I see Arthur Fonzarelli on Romper Room. But the Fonz, you can imagine him in King Arthur's Court. It's dueling with Merlin. That's a story. There's a few stories in here that I think people know, and that is one. This game is relatively similar to Mystery Date. So you would hang around at Arnold's. Your goal is to meet the Fonz. And let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Fonz in his leather jacket. Right there. Almost. There you go. There's the Fonz in his leather jacket. I mean, look at this. Object of the game, be prepared to meet the Fonz. That's the object. It's the object of the game. I think it's my favorite story in the book. The Perfect Strangers one is good too. That's Prince and the Pauper. But this one, starts out with Fonz in the drive-in, at Arnold's Drive-In, 1957, and a spark from the jukebox sends him back in time. In the original story, it's a concussion that sends him back in time, but he gets back there, and there's just great. It's like he is so perfectly fit. I mean, that was the thing about these stories, was I would read these Mark Twain stories, and they were just so charming, and immediately characters would jump into them, and I'd say that would work well. And then sometimes, because Mark Twain's books are public domain, my parody could include some of his wordplay, and then a lot of times I would completely take what he was doing and kind of go in a different direction. And there were holes that I had to fill because everything wasn't a one-to-one comparison. But I just found it was so fun to put these 70s and 80s characters into these scenarios. My favorite one, and it was one that I had never read. The story that Mark Twain wrote, it was not my favorite of his, although every paragraph I read of his work was fantastic. But this one I really enjoyed, and it was I call it Journalism in Cincinnati. The original was Journalism in Tennessee, and it is a story, and I'm going to show you this game because this is an unauthorized and unopened the big guy game, and there's Gordon Jump, Mr. Carlson, and this is an unauthorized WKRP in Cincinnati game. I find this so weird. It does say it was a charity thing. It says all proceeds go to support Bob Hipple Laboratory for Cancer Research. But so wild is that? He's on the air. The big guy's taking over the station. My story that I told about WKRP in Cincinnati is a follow-up to the turkey episode. So if you've ever seen that, it is the most famous episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. It's a great one. It's from their first season, and they lasted a long time. They actually went from the original series to like a spin-off series, which was, like a continuation, really. Sort of like What's Happening and What's Happening Now. But I love that show, that turkey episode. And so this was like a diary. And it was this guy that worked in this newsroom. It was this diary of, daily entries. And I was like, Les Nessman is keeping a diary. He's writing down, this. And they're going to be doing their first Thanksgiving promotion ever since the turkey giveaway that was such a disaster. And so the way that I wrote the story is that you could tell it's going to build up to a disaster. That's what's going to happen. And so it takes place on Thanksgiving a few years later. It's got some great moments, some great callbacks to that original story. By the way, I wanted to tell you how I came up with the title. So on Patreon, I send out postcards to everybody every month. And I will tell you, we've got a lot of people on there, and that's a lot of postcards. And I try to write something nice to everybody, try to take some time on each one. And so I was writing, and I start to get sloppy, and then I say, okay, I got to take a break and then write later, but it takes a long time to write all of them. And one of them was a picture of Mark Twain, right? Of this guy. And I'm writing out his name, and I get sloppy. A lot of times I'll even miss like a letter as I'm writing, or miss a word, and just my sentences aren't coherent, and they're sloppy. But it was a coherent sentence, but it clearly said Mork Twain, and it made me laugh really hard. But I fixed it and sent it out, and then I just started joking with my buddies about the idea of a book called Mork Twain of this type, and so they kind of were saying, there's the jumping frog of Calabasas County. And immediately I was like, well, why is that not the Dukes of Hazzard? Why isn't it the jumping car of Hazzard County? Let's take a look inside the Dukes of Hazzard game, because this one's not sealed. We got Dukes cards and Hazzard cards. This one says, you jumped over a pile of rocks, move an extra 5 spaces. You jumped over a fallen tree, go again. And there it is. And we have time for one more, which is Cheers. Which in Cheers, I told this story that involved Norm and Cliff going off to an island, and It's a wild story. I think it's very funny, and it was hard because some of the stories, like even Cheers, would be like, wow, this is a little too silly. But I was able to tie that together, and you can go get it over there. Look at this. Look at this. Now this one comes with these cards, say Cheers on them. And then let me show you this board game. This is by TSR, who did Dungeons and Dragons. There it is, guys. I have enjoyed this month. It has been so much fun serving you up these daily videos. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go and check out my books over there on Amazon. Even if you don't buy them, review them for me. I'd love a review. That would make me so happy. But I'm so happy that you guys were here for this. We are done with this. This goes right over here in the trash. The month is over. I won't be seeing you tomorrow here, but if you go to the main channel, I always have a video every day. There's a short or a long form video. Tomorrow it'll be a short, and you'll love it. You'll have a fun time. And then maybe we'll do this again next year or something else. I'll definitely be putting something on here sometime soon, so stay subscribed. I'll see you later. Bye now.